Hey, we're back. Thanks everybody for joining. It's good to be back. We're gonna do some virtual Smart Zone 521 stuff today. So I'm actually gonna do a live demo of the upgrade process for it. Very simple, very easy to do. If you have, a lot of experience with Smart Zone, it's probably gonna turn out to be a pretty simple thing for you. You probably already know, but it's good to just kind of get a refresher and get that info out for folks that might be looking to do it. And then a couple things I want to cover too is, so next week we're going to go back to Unleashed. And the reason I'm going to do that is because there's a lot of information that we have really surrounding Unleashed. And one of the main reasons I want to do that is because of the current situation we all live in right now, which is we're all working from home, school's starting. So a lot of kids are at home doing in-home learning. So we really want to put some information out there and help you build the biggest, best, most robust network you can in your house. Make sure that, everything runs flawlessly, smooth. I know a lot of times that folks have issues with, speed issues or troubleshooting. So we're going to go through a ton of that stuff and show you everything there is that you can do. And we'll do that continually over the next couple of weeks, get as much of that in there as we can. And then we're going to start to create videos, the video on demand piece for that, and publish that through YouTube after that. Really get that information out there, get you some quick hit stuff, go through it. So, but today we're going to cover Smart Zone. I want to at least go through the upgrade, like I said, and then I want to cover the release notes too, just because there's a lot of really important information out there. So it's good to know that stuff, and it's good to cover it beforehand. So let's take a look. I have it up here, and I have a lab one. So you're gonna have to forgive me on a couple things. Today's my first day back from PTO, so I have basically one Smart Zone, one access point attached to it. I'm not really doing anything very, crazy with it. It's built so that we can, as we go along over time, do more things with it, build things onto it. We're going to do some DPSK stuff in here. We're going to do dynamic VLAN assignment. We'll do some radius configurations. So we're going to do a lot more with this over time. So I really wanted to leave it bare bones so that when we do go through it, we get to see the whole thing get put together. So we'll do that as time goes on. But for right now, let's do the simple piece. We're going to go in and do an upgrade on it. So I already downloaded the XImage file or the OVA file for 521. And I'm just going to go through and do the upgrade. And because there's really nothing on here, I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not going to do a config backup. Normally you would do this stuff, but it's going to add a lot of time to it. I can do a quick... just a quick backup of it, just back up the cluster. Yes, it's so simple. Click, wait, you're good to go. It just starts working. So we'll let this run through. Now, because this is going to take some time, once we start the upgrade process, then we'll go through the release notes. Obviously, that's backwards. Normally, we would go through the release notes, prior, first of all, and then do the upgrade. But because it's a demo, I want to be able to kind of run both in conjunction and not have a bunch of dead air time just during the stream and let it run. So the backup for this honestly shouldn't take very long. You might have a little bit more time on your end when you go through and do it, just because your configs are probably much larger and there's a lot more going on. One of the things I've always done over the course of time is I go through the release notes because I want to see what known issues are in that release and if it's going to bite me. And I also want to know which issues have been resolved. So if I am facing something, a patch version like this gets me that information, and it'll probably stabilize things if I've ran into them. Typically you go to major releases because you're looking for some additional functionality. And of course, with that additional functionality always comes certain challenges to where you want to make sure that you're not, everything's running fine with it, and you're going to have to go through it a little bit and make sure that you don't have anything kind of sticking out that's breaking that functionality or breaking existing functionality that you have within your network. So we'll just kind of go through that and make sure. Hopefully this thing doesn't bark at me and break on this backup, which it shouldn't. But I have the release notes pulled up, so we'll go through these. We're going to go through this word by word. So we're going to go through the export restrictions, the disclaimer. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that to you. Bore you to death. So as always, feel free, throw your questions in chat. We'll answer them. This is always recorded. It's always posted in our YouTube channel in the playlist under live streams. I usually try to add it to the appropriate playlist in there as well. So if we have one for Virtual Smart Zone, this would go in there as well. But this process, other than time consuming, is really super easy. I've never had a whole lot of issues with upgrading Smart Zone. I mean, upgrades are upgrades. Certain things can happen, but I've always had great success with it, and it's really a simple process. So once our backup is done, we'll start going through it. But I'm going to go through this. A lot of this stuff deals with Wi-Fi 6. So, Wi-Fi 6 coming out is a huge deal, and it's also bringing in new products. So one of the things that we'll see in here when we go into the new in this release piece is what new products are supported. That obviously will work to our advantage, because you can see, okay, now we can start to buy these products, bring them in, they'll work, they'll function, and you get new functionality with that. There are some things I found in here really interesting surrounding certain legacy devices. So there's good information and good workarounds in here. And again, that's another major reason why I like to go through this, because you might have been banging your head against the wall on a problem, and then you decide, you know what, there's new functionality out there, let's bring it in and see what happens. This buys you that, and then you find something in there and you're like, oh man, this is why. Can it make it a bit of a management nightmare sometimes? Sure, but I mean, we try to simplify that as much as we can. And, as responsible network administrators, we always work to make sure that doesn't happen. So making tech sense, thank you. Welcome. I'm glad to see you're here. I don't know how much we'll go through the ICX piece, but I will cover that in the future. So we will do a stream probably mainly dedicated to ICX in Virtual Smart Zone. It's a really nice functionality to have. I've configured it. It's really smooth and seamless, and it gets you really a good central point for a lot of the different management things that you need. And then of course you can take other things like, you can bring in some Ansible and automation stuff into it, and you can really make the management of your network super seamless and easy. So yeah, we'll definitely cover both, and depending on what the different environments are for the streams, we'll cover different things in there. So I'm actually surprised this backup is taking as long as it is. I'm not entirely sure why. So we'll just hurry up and wait. So I think what we'll do while I'm waiting is we'll start to go through some of these AP features. New APs that were introduced that are supported is the R550 and the R850. So the 550 is a 2x2, 850 is an 8x8, 5 gigahertz, and dual band. So and they have integrated IoT radios. This stuff as we keep going forward keeps getting better and better, and really adding the functionality that I think pretty much everyone and all of us want, right? We have autonomous cell sizing on Wi-Fi 6 APs. So this is really helping in the co-channel interference space. I'm sure we'll see a lot of things coming from that, and hopefully a lot cleaner SNR and noise and everything else. So we do now have, so speaking of ICXs, we have the L2 ACL wired support. So you can start to create those L2 ACLs and apply them. So that's a good feature to have. Meshing on 2.4 and 5 gigs. So RUCKUS Smart Mesh is now available on Wi-Fi 6 APs for both bands. So I know that's a big win for a lot of you. And then we also have 160 meg support on Wi-Fi 6 APs. The high mem logs, they're saved and in rotation, so you never lose that stuff. And that stuff's really meant to be stored off and kept. It's meant for troubleshooting. That's its entire purpose. So it'll stay there. You can use it. I know when you deal with this stuff, management's part of it, but a lot of our day is usually consumed by troubleshooting the weird issues that we're trying to figure out. So there were a lot of enhancements made to Channelfly. So they enhanced it to incorporate off-channel background scanning. It can now optimally assign APs to non-overlapping channels. This is something, anytime I see Channelfly improvements, the first thing I think of is, I upgraded this, I want to pay attention to it. That's probably the first thing I want to watch, just to make sure that everything is kind of functioning the way that you would expect, right? There are some limitations with it, but that's also to be expected. 2.4 gig lacks logic that considers 20 megahertz channel overlaps. So for example, consider a situation where the AP is on channel 1 and channel 2 and channel 6 are available with no neighbors. Channel 6 is more ideal because of no overlap, but Channelfly does not take that into consideration. For now, the user is recommended to enable only 1611 or 14711. So you get some information out of it that way too. And then legacy limitations. So this is if you've enabled legacy Channelfly through the RUCKUS CLI, it does not persist through an access point reboot. So naturally, once you upgrade your virtual smart zone software, it's going to push that software out to your access points. They're going to reboot. So you need to be aware of this if you've done that. Check this again real quick. Okay, backup's done. Let's jump back in and do the upgrade real quick because I want to get that going. So I'm just going to browse to downloads. This one here. 521. Go ahead and open that up. Oh, I need the X image. Well, let's go get it. I wondered about that. We'll just go grab it real fast. It won't take too long to download. Log in. Sorry about that. I thought I had the right file and I didn't, but maybe this will help. So we'll just go to downloads, go up here to choose product, vSZ, and we'll go to 521 X image. Now let's see just how fast my internet connection is. See if this thing's going to catch on fire or not. And let's... Oh, wait, I don't want to do that. Just save the file. Two and a half minutes left. We can't really beat that. So, all right. You're going to get some 802.11ax airtime stats. So, you know, easy way for customers to understand airtime utilization for the new Wi-Fi 6 AEPs. RUCKUS extends the airtime stats. Free airtime, transmit, receive, multicast, broadcast, interference, non-Wi-Fi interference. So if anybody still has a cordless phone out there, management, traffic, etc. When seen through the GUI, these stats provide meaningful insights into various aspects of the network. Network overhead, neighbor impact, rogue impact, which I know is something I'm definitely going to be looking at right away. Uplink and downlink as well. And then impact of non-Wi-Fi interference. So you get really good stats out of it. Bigger, broader view, you know, things that we all want in there. That's always great. So the my.ruckus config knob. So this one I didn't actually look into a whole lot. I must have skipped over this. So if the AP's management VLAN is in default VLAN 1, however, the same would not work for tunnel WLAN and non-default management. Oh, that was in 5.0. So in 5.2, you can now have tunnel WLAN and default VLANs working. Okay. Okay, so that's just an enhancement right there. So that's awesome. Enhanced OS fingerprint. That's awesome. Fingerprinting is always a great thing. So that's a lot of the meat and potatoes data that we're looking for. We like to see that. And then simplify GUI option for power source. So this is interesting. The objective is to standardize our convention going forward. So because PoE is all over the place a lot of times, this is really just a standardization of that. So the AP kind of understanding what power it needs versus what it's getting. So you should get some information out of that. You know, if you're using power injectors, that's fine. I think a lot of these environments are built using PoE. So GUI enhancement for AP config. So AP specific configuration functions will now be displayed on the AP info pane on the controller GUI. So enhancing that probably makes our lives much easier as well. And then you're also getting report average MCS metrics, and then some switch management stuff. So this is the stuff that when I looked at, I thought we're going to get a lot more of this as we go, because switch management was recently introduced. So now that we're getting into patch versions, you'll start to see some additional features getting thrown into it. Remote CLI, that is, for me, that's awesome. So I can just hit it, remote CLI into it, and then I can run commands and monitor them, configure things from there. But as this says, it can only be accessed by the system super user. But the simple fact that you can do it is great to see. I love seeing that. The configuration part here, so you can do protected ports. So protected ports it's a pretty interesting concept. It's actually a really cool concept, because what it does is the basic way that your ICX switch works is the ports that are in there and all the VLAN, it's like a table. And that table basically says that these ports live within these VLANs, right? Well, when you create a protected port, that port is now isolated within that VLAN itself, so it can't cross out. So you can configure that. You can do a more granular PoE budget limit at the switch port level, which you have to do because your PoE budgets have a tendency to try to get out of control if you don't really manage and monitor that very closely. So being able to do that from Smart Zone is a huge benefit. You have the ability to change the default VLAN, which I would say use caution when you do that, but it's a best practice to do that. And you can also set your management VLAN. So I'll take you back to a conversation that's probably 15 years old saying, why would you ever use anything other than VLAN 1 for management? And the argument with that we always had was, if you use a management VLAN like VLAN 2, VLAN 2 can be deleted. So you can actually lose your management VLAN. Now, how often you're deleting VLANs in your environment varies from network to network. But for this, there's so much, I guess, what's the correct term for it? Vendor specific information that happens in VLAN 1 that, kind of tapping or laying your management traffic on top of that isn't always the best thing. So separate it out, put it in a separate management VLAN. You can now configure that from Smart Zone. So that's great to see. You can configure ports across multiple switches in a port group. And you can also do some quality of service stuff. So additional ACL options to remark and or prioritize traffic. QoS is such a widespread thing. It's used in so many different ways. It's great to see this has been added in as well. And then you can do the port level QoS configs, including your voice VLAN and LLDP med settings, which is very important because so many things are starting to utilize LLDP med. So monitoring, so you can search for a client at a global level, the entire system as opposed to a single switch port group. That's pretty slick. I mean, anybody that's done a show MAC address in an ICX or a stack of like 10 or 9, then you get a massive table and you're having to do pipe includes in there. So the search function is actually really cool to see. Get it down to the port level. You can probably simplify troubleshooting pretty well by doing that. So group level firmware upgrades. So you can upgrade all the switches within a group instead of manually selecting switches at one time. That makes life way easier. The biggest time suck of any ops guy or gal is that you have to spend a ton of time prepping devices for upgrades. So being able to do this is a huge win. And you can also download the syslog files of a selected switch. So, that one probably isn't as fancy. I mean, it's great to be able to do it. But I think most of us have an external syslog server that we push all those logs to. But you can still download it, which is great, because then you have a central repository or a place to kind of collect everything, because you can also pull your show text in, which is cool. And then group level firmware enforcement. So you can now set a minimum ICX firmware release against a group, and then switches joining the group with a lower version will automatically get upgraded. So that means bringing new devices online. And we talk about organic growth of our network so much. That's a slick feature. Plug it in, get it set up in the group. The Smart Zone's going to look at it and say, well, you're not part of the group until you're upgraded. So we're going to upgrade you, and then you're good to go. So those, and making TechSense, I completely agree. These are awesome improvements. And I only expect this to get better and better. So because it is a new feature introduction, there's going to be a lot of really cool things that come from this. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be great. So, all right, let's pause there. Let's get this upgrade going. So I'm going to browse and pull my actual Ximage file, and then we'll upload it. And while that's running, let's hop back over here. That upload should go pretty quick because I'm on the same LAN. So I think it just depends on how slow that 5400 RPM hard drive is in this server. ZapD enhancements. So the RUCKUS SpeedFlex throughput tool, historically and prior to release 5.2.1, keeps the port 18301 open for both TCP and UDP. So it leaves attack surface open, and the listener of this port is the ZapD daemon. So it's basically a security hole. So to eliminate it, a UI switch is introduced to enable or disable speed test. And so that way ZapD runs or stops accordingly. So now you're minimizing that vulnerability that you had, makes it even better. So that's great to see. So additional enhancements, ACLB for AXAPs, IPsec support is now available on AXAPs. Which that's, the day and age we live in where everybody's home and everything's encrypted and running over tunnels. That's great to see. You can get some spectrum analysis on your AXAPs, Rogue AP aggressive deauth for AXAPs. Good and bad. I mean, Rogue APs is a huge issue. So again, something to pay attention to, but I think in terms of an enhancement, it's a great enhancement to have. MBO for AX, add client latency measurement. So that's also great. I mean, a lot of the time that we spend is spent on troubleshooting clients, because in the wireless space, it's AP to client, so we have to really kind of pay attention to what's going on there. So the more measurement we can include into the UI of Smart Zone makes our lives so much better and so much easier. You get some URL filtering, license enhancements for Ethernet ports, and then change of authority for wired clients allows the user to change the role assigned for .1x enabled wired clients using the COA message from radio server. So because there's so much NAC, network access control stuff being put out there, this is a great improvement and something that I think we'll see, help enable those environments to function a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. And then U-boot control C is disabled on selected AP for security consideration. So that's a good thing. We get some hardware and software support. So again, we're going to stop there and see where we're at in this upload. We are no different. Okay. I'm not going to go through each line of this. This is, hardware and software support. It sounds like, release information. Yeah, I think this is just essentially saying these are the products that are supported. So, controller support. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Yeah, release information. A lot of this stuff, because I don't want to go into each specific model. That gets really dry really fast. And, you know, this can probably become really dry really fast if we let it. So we'll just kind of peel off this. You'll have to take a good look at what your, you know, your actual hardware appliances or virtual appliances, and make sure that all of this stuff lines up pretty well. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, again, more version stuff. Oh, RUCKUS IoT controller. So version 1.6, ESXi version 5.5 and later, VM player 12 and later. So you get all of this in here. You have everything that you need. All the public APIs are in here. So we've done, if you haven't seen or listened, we've done some podcasts, and we did a couple on the API piece itself. So there's a podcast link for you. There's a lot of awesome things that we're doing now in the API space. And, you know, APIs are something that they're necessary. And I wouldn't even call them a necessary evil. It's kind of a necessary good. And it enables so many new and different features, functionalities. It ties things together in such a great way. So it gives you really a lot of flexibility. So, but all of it's here. So anything you need in terms of API stuff, it's right here. Take a look at it, you know, see what's going on. And Ankush, you're absolutely right. The high mem enhancement's really cool because, like you said, it's going to track the AP reboots, watchdog timeouts, and it gives you the breadcrumbs for what's going on with that AP, and it allows them, you know, yourself, or if you need to, get support involved and say, what's going on with this thing? And you can get so much information out of it. So it's great to see that enhancement for sure. Okay, so I see. If you end up with this, because of the AP DPI feature, also uses the application signature packet, and it can be optionally updated when a new version is available. But in this case, previous packages are not compatible, so upgrading zone firmware is blocked until the corresponding signature package is installed, and it gives you the actual signal pack you need. So if you see this error message, this gives you the workaround. Just download it, manually upgrade the signature package using this process. Then once done, the AP zones can be upgraded. So a thing to pay attention to, make sure that you look at that prior to doing your upgrade. Otherwise, it just makes your night longer. And, you know, nobody wants that. So let's see. Do refer to the upgrade guide. We always tell you to do that because, you know, that gives you more information. But hopefully this will get you a lot of information with that as well. And then the other cool thing is you can go in here and say, hey, I want to make sure that all of the APs that are within my smart zone zones and what are managed by it, I want to make sure that they're all within the feature matrix and that they're supported. So you can hop right in and do this, and you know, it'll pull this information back and tell you if you have anything that's off, so you'll know if you're going to have issues anywhere. Yeah, and Ankush is saying that's mentioned on the download page, so it gives you the signature file is right there, so everything's all encompassed in one spot. So yeah, and we do highly recommend to read that, because otherwise it's going to end up in either, like I said, a really long night or a call to support, and you know, then it's, you know, you're having to really extend your night then. So, but the information's there, and you can double check it and make sure. So, okay. All right, upgrade path, always good to know. So 5.2 to 5.2.1, piece of cake. If you're going from 3.6 any patch version to 5.2.1, look at that, 3.6 to 5.2.1. So you don't have to hop upgrades. You can go, you know, straight to it, which is good to see. And this is just your AP firmware guides, so check that as well. But here's all of the supported models that are in there, everything that you can see. So you can either do the feature that I showed you above, or you can go through this manually. Okay. Yeah, and if you have unsupported AP models, which are listed here, they're obviously not going to be supported in this release. So don't brick your APs if you can help it. Switch management features, support matrix. So this is basically every single ICX product that we have. So they're all supported. Every version of it, flavor of it. So if you have a 7150 C12P, if you have a 7150 24P, anything like that, they're all supported. It encompasses all of them. That's why it's not broken down into each individual one. But it will show you the software support matrix. So my general recommendation for anybody right now that's running ICX, and I don't support might differ from this slightly, I don't know, but I run 8090D in all of my ICXs. That really depends on features that you're needing. So if there's something in 92, you can run to that. 95 is around the corner, so actually 95 might be out, I'm not sure. So anyways, it gives you all that information so you can make sure. Yeah, I guess 95 is out, it's listed there. Yep. Oh, no. Asterisk. There's the cliff, or the footnote, scheduled for release by the end of August 2020. So at least it's supported in only 5.2.1. It's not supported in any other version. Okay. All right, we're 90% there. That's good. SZ100 8092 and higher is recommended. Okay, good to know. Thanks for sharing. I love information sharing. I'd rather be over-informed than under. So awesome. The switch management feature compatibility matrix. So it gives you all this as well. Again, I'm not going to go through this entire thing, but I can kind of see why 95 is the recommendation there. Or 92. Okay. IoT suite, same thing. You get all this information. And then other devices may work with this release, but they have not been validated. Okay. I'm going to go back up. I'm on page. There's one thing I completely missed in here, and I don't know how. So this is known issues, so I know where to go. This is legacy safe implementation. So legacy devices like Intel drivers 18 and below don't recognize Wi-Fi 6 APs. Some Mac OSs have problems with Wi-Fi 6 APs because of their large beacons. However, often you're in the weeds working on this stuff. You're probably well versed in this, but this has been problematic for a number of years, and new products come out, everything else, bands are changing now, so drivers are going to start to become an issue, and then you have legacy devices that don't support newer drivers to bring them kind of into where we are today. So there's a feature that adds the ability to downgrade a WLAN from Wi-Fi 6 to Wi-Fi 5 on a per WLAN basis. And then that way you can have a standalone WLAN that's not an AX or a Wi-Fi 6 WLAN, and it'll allow you to have all your clients attached to this. So that really gives you that flexibility there. And for some reason I missed that, but I wanted to make sure I covered it because it's a challenge for sure. So having the ability to do that is great, and it gets you that flexibility. Okay, look at that. It's uploaded. So successfully verified. Go ahead and upgrade the system. So we're going to upgrade it. Yep. Upgrade the system, reboot. Oh, hold on. So I'm going to do one more thing. You're not going to be able to see this because I don't have this window shared, but I'm going to start a continuous ping. Because when it comes back up and online, I want to be able to see that it's online because it is going to reboot. So another good practice, get the ping going. When it comes back, then we're good to go. Okay, so let's go back down to known issues just so that let's software support, enhancements. Hold on a second. Known issues. So there are some known issues. So one thing I want to note, these are known issues. They're documented. They're currently opened enhancement requests within engineering. So engineering is looking at this to see how they can be resolved. And then obviously in 5.2.2, you would see hopefully the largest majority of these resolved. And it'll be covered in resolved issues when we get down below. But, you know, it's good to go through these. The list for this is really not that extensive. It's 4 or 5 pages, 6 pages. So there's a good chunk of them. I wasn't able to go through and pull any kind of highlighted ones out, but it's something that you want to look at and verify that you want to be worried about. So AP SNMP v3 displays inform when the notification type is set to trap. You know, simple things like that. So sometimes it's pretty cosmetic. It's not really something that you're like, oh, that's going to break everything. I can't move to it. If that were the case, it would be an open defect that it would get patched, right? So it's nuanced things like that, but they're known, so they're all being worked. The downlink rate of AP 650 and our 550 is too high through SpeedFlex. You know, again, you're seeing things like that. Large number of rogue APs can affect Channelfly's background scan mechanism and affect the Channelfly readings, resulting in more channel changes. So, you know, look through this list, make sure that nothing is really a showstopper for you, just to make sure. There's so much information in here, it would take us a while to go through it, but just kind of the highlights to show you what to really look for. Okay. All right, some changed behavior. So this is another good thing to look at, because a lot of times when I perform an upgrade and then I go look for something, like, wait, where did that go? Did I miss it in the release notes? And usually I did. Or I jumped from one major version to another, so I'd have to go through the whole list of release notes, because this is just changed behavior from one version to the next. So by default, my RUCKUS support for LBO, tunnel WLAN, and non-default management VLAN is disabled from this release. So in the controller web interface, just navigate to your zone settings to enable it. So it just gives you these workarounds and informs you, like, hey, whoops, this is what's happening. And maybe not even whoops, just this is what's happening. This is how you get around that. AP events will be seen whenever discontinuous event is generated within less than 15 minutes time difference with the controller. RUCKUS does not support user equipment SpeedFlex application to run speed test against the controller due to security reason. A simple ping from user equipment to controller can be a replacement of this option within the SpeedFlex feature. Enhanced performance and memory usage for this command. Let's see. Real quick. A new issue I found is that ICX stacks in a linear topology do not work with the SZ100. Ring topology must be used. It's to be fixed. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So just out of curiosity, how many switches do you have in that stack? Because I absolutely won't scold you, but I will highly recommend. My job is not to scold. But if it's 3 or more, you know, especially if you get into... Oh, you had 2 as a test. Yeah, so at that point, I get your frustration with that, because what is 2 really going to buy you? 1 goes offline, it's offline. 3 or more, it would make sense. So I can see that. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah, interesting. I don't know. You know, I mean, the other option or benefit that you get from a ring topology when you're dealing with a stack of 2 isn't necessarily just your redundancy and kind of the resiliency in that piece. It's really mainly just throughput then. So, I don't know how much more excessive you're going to get over a 40 gig link, depending on what models you're using. But, you know, it might be a benefit to have 2 just for the throughput. But, you know, it is what it is. So, because one of the main things too to look at that with when you have your stacks built over a stack of 2, because if you're using something like an SPX stack and you're going to use, you know, 2 7750s as your control bridge, and you have them, you know, collapsed together, I would want to do it in a ring, because anything I'm lagging down from that to my switch port extenders or the PEs, I would want to be running in a lag configuration, but I would want them ran to 2 individual devices within the stack. That way you get that redundancy in there, instead of running, you know, both ports to the same switch. I like to spread those out so that I have some redundancy in there. So something to consider, just a good reason for that. So, but like I said, I get your frustration, but there's also advantages to also requiring that. All right, so controllers. Actually, this thing's pinging again. Is it back up? Oh, it's prepping it. Okay. Yeah, each lag leg is on a different switch. Yeah, best practice for sure. I mean, I always try to make sure that you do that. And then especially if you're doing 2 and 2, or if you have 4 links in there, you're doing 2 and 2 or things like that, depending on how you build it. So just makes it easier. Even in standard, if you're using a stack as your distribution layer and you've got multiple access switches going to it and you're lagging that traffic up, same thing. I mean, it's just a good practice. So controllers vSZ for data plane and SZ100D for data plane. CLI now has a capability to support restore feature. Public API now allows clients to disable WLAN by using the parameter probe RSSI THR. Enhanced error message when calling create or update zone public API with the non-existent tunnel profile ID. So, enhanced error messaging is always a fan of mine, just because sometimes they're a little bit, what's the right word for it? Lax. So that's perfectly fine. If the switch is running firmware version 90 and above, VLAN 4093 is no longer a reserved VLAN. So that's good to see. SCG Universal Exporter lowers the CPU usage when the LBS is activated. Oh, okay, good. Let's see, resolved an issue where it failed to download snapshot file less than 1 gigabyte on the web user interface with slow download speed. Buffer is now enhanced to 2 gigabytes, which is the guaranteed file size. Awesome, you won't lose it. Let's see here, enhance the Tomcat memory usage when the controller is enabled for SCI. Good deal. And then resolved an issue of APs being stuck in a new configuration or update process state. Hang on a second. Resolved an issue of APs being stuck in a new configuration or update process state. So that tells me it was a known issue where they knew the update process state had an issue, so they've just fully resolved that. Oh, I'm in resolved issues. Never mind. I didn't see that we jumped from change behavior to resolved issues. So, okay. Now I'm back on Earth. Yeah, and Ankush, that's a great point. All of these issues don't bite every customer. I mean, it's just documented that these are known issues, and they're not known issues in every single environment. So if it is a behavior that you run into, then its causation is this, which now you know. But it's not widespread that you're guaranteed to run into it. It just really depends on what you're doing. So Ankush, that's a great point. Thank you for pointing that out. So, all right, resolved issues. This is the fun part. So as I just said, that update process, new config process, that has been resolved. Resolved an issue where AP model specific interface override reverted after moving from one AP group to another within the same zone. Resolved an issue where the AP was not able to move to a zone which had more than 1,500 APs. Well, that's good to know. That's also a massive zone, so that would be really frustrating. Resolved an issue where I believe that might be a typo. Should say rogue AP event could not be triggered in time. That's what I'm going to guess. That should say rogue. Resolved an issue where the controller failed to check VLAN pooling profile when deleting it. Thank you. Great to know. Resolved an issue where AP rebalance and tunnel flapping did not work well. Resolved an issue where AP Bridge 0 interface showed MTU size as 850 after a zone director migration. Okay. So I'm assuming that's been updated to show an MTU size of 1,500. And we do have an internal process to update the team that writes our release notes. So I'll make a note to go in and ask them, hey, can you maybe update this? So that we're not all assuming. So resolved an issue where the AP failed to establish the SSH tunnel to controller when the AP is configured in dual mode. So it has a static IPv4 address and an auto IP6 address. Awesome. Okay, good. That's an interesting issue, because once you run into IPv6 and dual stack, if you're running both v6 and v4, v6 always wins. So it becomes the primary IP to be used. So, you know, I'm assuming that static IP is where your SSH tunnel is naturally terminating to. So they probably just had to revert that back. Resolved an issue where the controller failed to generate AP by null profile identifier of the zone's multiple tunnel config. Resolved an issue where 5G channel range for AP group was not applicable. Resolved an issue where root AP failed to beacon mesh VAP interface after migrating from zone director in release 3.6.2. Oh, interesting. Okay. Resolved an issue where the AP config update failed because the time zone buffer was too small for updating the AP RPM key. That's frustrating. Yeah. Awesome job, engineering. That's cool. Resolved an issue where the connection failure increased drastically in a fast roaming scenario. Again, that's a great resolution. And then resolved an issue where WLAN inactivity timeout for AXAP failed to update when the original value exceeded the limit. Yeah, see, this is, I mean, stuff like this to me is normal. When you go from, you know, you have all of these, you know, Wi-Fi 5 access points out there, and you've got them rock solid, and then you bring 6 into it, and now you have all these different timers and timeouts and everything working. It's like, holy moly, what's going on here? So let's see. Resolved a packet flood at NSSR flow offload when a packet with the same RX or receive address and transmit address hit the module. Yeah, that's good. That's how you avoid DOS attacks on yourself. So there was an issue with the R730 watchdog timeout. That's been resolved. Mesh AP is establishing a connection to an uplink AP when smart uplink selection is enabled. And then, oh, now this is great. Multicast group caused multicast broadcast packets to drop. So, I mean, that's a huge help just on how much multicast is out in the world now. And I mean, of course, broadcast traffic, but yeah, that's great to see. Let's see. Clients in sleep mode were unable to receive multicast broadcast packets. Yikes. Aeroscout packets were sent to Aeroscout engine server, or erroneous. So let's see. Roaming client assigned the IP address from local VLAN and not from the radius server. Well, that's intriguing. I'm sure that was a mess to figure out, because just how we assign IP addresses in environments and how large they are, I bet that was a ton of fun for them to work around that one. Transmit average MCS rate was higher than the actual rate. I think that looks more cosmetic than anything. Mesh stopped working on changing to static channel config. Oh, that's good. Let's see. Airtime stats showed incorrect values in the support information file. I'm sure support was very happy to see that. Obfuscating private key was seen in AP support log. Again, good fix. AP failed to upgrade to Smart Zone Release 5.2. Yeah, that's correlating with the one above, too. Support log failed to download. Client failed to obtain IP address when device policy was configured. Captive portal URL was incorrect when redirecting in Whisper network. Oh, that's frustrating. Jeez. Okay. Resolved an issue of AP reboot due to kernel panic. High CPU utilization due to collected processes. Resolved issue where an error code 306 event type AP channel updated was not displayed for 2.4 gigahertz channel in Wi-Fi 6 APs. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of awesome fixes in this. So not only did a lot of the ICX enhancements make this a really awesome release, but this is, I mean, just the issues that they resolved alone, that's been cool to see. So heck yeah. And like I said, I'll bring a lot of the ICX stuff into this. I'll do a live stream just solely on Smart Zone ICX management and show a lot of this feature functionality off, and it should be a lot of fun to play with it. Let's see, where are we at? Still preparing systems. All right. I have a feeling that upgrade probably isn't going to finalize by the time the stream ends, just because it does roughly run an hour. But it's upgrading. So once it comes back up, it's just going to show that it's running 5.2.1. And like I said, there's no devices attached to it, and we won't have time to go through the features anyways. So, yeah, but all right. Decreased throughput for performance in WPA2 LANs. AP reboot caused by kernel panic. Resolved issue where the controller created multiple APs and the data plane heartbeat was lost. Yikes, which caused a disconnection with false alarms and Cassandra connection problems. Resulted in issue of AP configuration update failure caused by the connection problem. Okay, good. Oh, here's a good one. So this actual listed defect, this is expected as per design, and this is a new daemon which gets restarted every 30 minutes, and hence the console message is inevitable. Okay, so we'd have to go research that one and see what exactly that is. Resulted in issue where controller displayed the DBR value instead of the extrapolated DBM value. That's good. Customer onboarding and file open error. Controller failed to create the domain using CLI mode. That's frustrating. CLI command output for show cluster node shows the number of APs as 0. 0. Enhance the performance and memory usage for the command domain name. That is, I wonder what was triggering that. That's really odd. Let's see, how many more of these do we have here? 32. Yeah, there's a lot. Use Chrome browser on macOS 10.15 client and access the controller web interface. Client may see the error net cert, cert revoked. Do not contact customer support. So, all right, interop. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of everything that's been resolved. I stopped at page 32, just because we're starting to run short on time. I don't want to go bananas on it. I don't know how much longer this upgrade is going to take either. So. We'll go through this other stuff down here. So the following, yeah, I agree. There is lots of good stuff in here. It's really awesome to see. Following table lists the minimum network requirement for the controller's cluster interface. So if you're exceeding this type of latency, jitter, or bandwidth, you're gonna have issues. You're going to be hard pressed to run into this unless you're running a cluster over long distances. But this gives you an idea of what you can really expect if you are trying to do that, which I would recommend you don't. But everything has its needs. So, and then Smart Zone controllers and ZoneFlex APs use standard protocols to interoperate with third-party Wi-Fi devices. We qualify its functionality on the most common clients. So Intel Wi-Fi driver version 1951 fails to detect the open SSIDs on AXAPs. So we'll give you workarounds. Update the Dell laptop Wi-Fi driver to this version. So you get all of these workarounds in here, or descriptions of what's going on, to really kind of work you around all this stuff. Chrome OS does not send the hostname and DHCP packet, which results in an empty string as hostname in the controller web user interface. So again, cosmetic stuff and stuff like that. DHCP clients always do everything differently anyways. So you're going to have that challenge, and you're going to have to find ways to actively work around that. But we do what we can, Surface Pro window client failed to connect to WPA3 mixed mode. So you get all this information in here. And again, it's a lot of information. You can go through it. Certain stuff's going to stick out to you more than others. So, but it's good to see. And again, if you need this information, you go to the support portal and log in. And right here, when you go to download the file, the release notes link is right here. So you can pull it up, get right to it. Before upgrading, application recognition and control signature package file found here. So all the notes are there. I know if you're anything like me, you usually get excited. You're like, oh yeah, it's time to upgrade this thing and turn these features on. And I get all this cool, Wi-Fi 6 functionality and bug fixes, and then I also get all this awesome ICX functionality. Let's upgrade this thing. You're like, oh, whoops, now I just ran into 7 issues that I have to resolve on the fly instead of just prepping it correctly first of all and going through it. So it's piece of cake to do it. It just makes a ton of sense to go through it. And take your time, go through it. We're all kids in the candy store when it comes to this stuff. But, you know, it's a good way to do it. So, cool. I'm going to let this thing run for a couple more minutes and see if we get any more questions that come through. But this is, I mean, we're probably still another 30 minutes out from this thing being upgraded, and I'm not going to bore you to death with that. So, here's the plan. Next couple weeks, we're going to do some more Unleashed stuff. And I'm recapping based on how I open this. But again, we're doing that because, you know, everybody's at home. Kids are doing schoolwork at home. We want to make sure that they're having great success with that and that you don't have any headaches. And plus, nothing's more frustrating than, you know, seeing the spinning wheel when you're trying to stream Netflix or Amazon Prime or just anything that you're doing that becomes frustrating. So we really want to go through that stuff with a fine-tooth comb, make sure everybody's armed with as much information as possible, and then, you know, make sure that they can run this thing and really turn it on and not have to think about it again. That's really what we're after. Turn it on. Sometimes, you know, adjust the times your WLANs are on, things like that. But for the most part, kick it on, leave it alone. See you next time. So, but yeah, we'll do Unleash the next couple times, and then after that, we'll come back. We'll do Virtual Smart Zone 521. We'll bring in the ICX switches into it. We'll start to put that stuff together. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, we're going to do that. So Making Tech Sense will be here next Wednesday, same time, 11 Mountain. We'll be all over it. And seriously, we can't have enough fun when we do this. And it's even more fun when people like yourself come in and gets ready to tell us or to ask us questions, get information out of it. That's really what we want, is we want you to get the most info out of these that you can. Yeah, and Anka's just pointing out that the operation status, it updates. It'll change with every step, and you can see a counter up here. So it'll keep counting down and keep checking. So it really gets you a comfort factor, because nothing's worse than having a GUI up and you go to upgrade it and it just sits there forever. Like, is this thing hung? Is it doing anything? What's going on here? Talk to me, Goose. And, you know, this thing's doing great. So you get the operation status, which is exactly what it's doing right now. It will, once that changes, it'll update. Once this timer counts down, it'll recheck it, see where it's at. So the UI is in constant contact with it, saying, hey, what are you up to now? What are you doing now? And then it also gives you the progress status. So, yeah, I mean, and you get that information. If it does fail, you know exactly where it failed. You know exactly what to go look at. It makes your life so much easier. So, and the funny part about it is for us, you know, I mean, in customer environments, we want you to know that, because that's important. You have an actual functional production environment. In this lab environment, because there's nothing attached to it, I would probably just delete the VM and spin the OVA up for 521 at that point. But we're not going to do that, because this thing's going to upgrade successfully, and we're going to be super happy when it does. So that's it. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll go through Unleashed. We'll have a ton of fun. I'm going to show you everything you need to know, including how to plug everything in together and what it looks like in your home network. Hopefully I should have the hardware here to do that. If not, I'll make something out of cardboard and we can pretend. So thank you all for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you guys here, and we will most definitely catch you next time. So again, thank you. Everybody take care. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for coming. Talk to you soon.